Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much who all have joined in, and I'll be more than happy for the today's session. Collaboration. I believe this is something that I have always believed in, and that's what I am trying to do, being the host for Cheers with Gaurav. The collaboration, the never-ending thing for myself. Also, I have put it down a specific quote to describe this session, which says, "A good conversation can shift the direction forever. But important part is, when you want to do the conversation, more important is to understand that how you collaborate with somebody else." So when I was planning for this session, that hey, collaboration is something that I need to do, but always the technical part, no. Always the sales part, no. So I thought of bringing someone who deals with all these techies and the non-techies out the industry. So I reached to one of my colleague in Red Hat. So Krishna Kumar, aka our KK, has spent over 2 decades in marketing, communication, and the branding space, has acquired a deep appreciation and a quick understanding of technologies, delivering the results for leading technology firms and the advertising agencies. So KK is working as a programs and digital marketing lead for India and South Asia with Red Hat. So I thought of that who it could be better to guide us on that why the collaboration is important, why conversation plays a very important role in handling up that why and where this directions of conversation and collaboration you are taking to. So let me proudly brings to you my friend from Red Hat, KK. Hey KK, good evening and thank you so much for being here with Cheers with Gaurav. Cheers. Welcome.
Good evening, Gourav. Very happy
Okay.
to be here. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for giving me the
Okay.
opportunity to be present in
So
your very light manner. In fact,
anytime. It's all our pleasure, and I believe our viewers will be more than happy to hear this part of the things that why collaboration plays a very important role. So, KK, my very first question to you is: do you also think and believe that collaboration plays a very important role in driving the conversations ahead?
there is no doubt about it. Basically, so
Hmm.
collaboration is something which is extremely vital in any profession which you get into. Right from being a
Right.
student to a hardcore professional, you need to be focusing yourself to collaborate better. So
Hmm.
whatever be your age, whatever be the stage of your career, whatever be your position in an organization or whatever it is, basically you need to better be collaborating with anyone and everyone who with whom you have a shared story to be
Right.
connected with. So that is extremely important. So as far as the learnings I had in my 2.5 decades of career, I have realized that the thing that give you an extra mile in your every actions, what adds value is definitely collaboration.
Definitely means I also believe that collaboration we are not going to learn while you are in the industry. We should learn from the student profile itself. Okay, taking a step ahead before we go ahead and just a formal part that Mike and KK both works for Red Hat, but this is what we are trying to do out of own our personal passion out of. There is nothing being endorsed by the Red Hat or it has been an official channel from the Red Hat itself. Okay, so people please feel free to put down your questions in the comment section for KK and we will try to take that up that in the following conversations ahead. So KK, my first question to you is that conversation is always a catalyst for the innovation. How do you see in today's world staying connected help you to build that relation with our connections?
Okay, so it says that all the knowledge is in the connections you make with others. So it is pretty much, the knowledge you build up is something that gives you that boost or that impetus to surge ahead. So when you make the right
Mhm.
connection through conversations, because connections and conversations cannot be something that we use to replace each other, because there is a intrinsic difference between a connection and a conversation when we really put it across.
Mhm.
So to strike a good conversation, you need to have a connection, but both are not mutually replaceable as such as a factor.
Mhm.
So what I always feel that when you establish a connection, when you want to start a conversation, you need to have a purpose. So that purpose is something that guides you forward in each and everything which you do. So that actually fosters innovation, because I've noticed is that one of thing you learn a lot from the next generation. So always you keep your eyes open to 8-year-old, 7-year-old people, who the way they react and all those things. So one thing I've noticed is that whenever you're sitting and whenever you're talking to somebody in the presence of an 8-year-old boy or a 7-year-old child, the moment you speak about a word which might be a little tough, which might not be in his vocabulary, you can immediately see his hands going to the phone. So he picks up the phone and he browses for that particular word, particular term. And
Right.
I never thought that that is why he is just picking up the phone. But when I started looking at a few kids, I have realized that anything and everything, they collaborate with people, they try to get that knowledge, they try to connect with someone, and they gain that information, that knowledge. So obviously, knowledge is something that triggers innovation. And
Mhm.
every moment you need to innovate. So as we all know, as we are all in the profession of business primarily, so we all need to innovate. We all need to if you don't innovate, you'll perish, is something which is has become a cliche. So
Right.
obviously innovation is very important, so do the connection which you make, and so do the conversations you strike to create a connection, as well as take that connection forward.
Right. What a nice point means. Now it also triggering me that if some of my nephew or niece is gonna sit in front of me and trying to take few new words and why they are reaching to mobile phone, I never thought in that way. But yes, definitely what I am also doing when I hear something new, I keep on searching it on Google, and that's what the digital era, I believe, which in which we are living is gonna is teaching us basically. So, KK, I also want to ask you that I have always been taught that a person's character may be learned from the adjectives which he or she habitually uses in the conversation. But now, in today's world, when we are surrounded, when we are adopting so much of digital technology, we are sharing our thoughts through these digital mediums. So, like if I say that I am very much active on LinkedIn, I keep on sharing my posts. Do you think that sharing a simple or like a purposeful thought, or like what you see that when you talk about sharing, does that a purpose which is your character influence, or the conversation you want to create an impact, or how does that work?
See, right in the beginning, when I started talking about, I
Mhm.
mentioned about the shared stories. So,
Right.
shared story, I loosely use the term story, because story is something that each and everyone has got a story to talk about and a story to connect with, basically. So, that is something that established that connection with the
Okay.
person whom you need to, connect with, or you need to take forward your conversation with. So,
Mhm.
you always need to have that something that you share with that person, that irrespective of the time, transcending the time, transcending the distance, transcending whatever the limitations of time and space, you just connect with someone with a shared story. So that creates an empathy, that creates
Mhm.
something that yeah, that brings you close. So it
Mhm.
is something that also help you to, so that is the next word which I'm talking about, basically influence
Right.
and be influenced. So it is
Mhm.
always important, these days I'm telling you, you can have your social presence just for a time pass, or just for uh, you know uh, just to have some catch up some conversations when you
Yes.
loosely
Yes.
put together. But as a professional, you and me, we always need to have a purpose when you connect with. So
Right.
that purpose is something that drives the whole process of conversation. So
Mhm.
we always need to have that shared story to bring us to closer towards this purpose, to achieve that purpose, basically. So
So your story need to have that purpose, or I believe the purpose of conversation is to share these stories, right?
yes.
Thank you for that point up. So people who all are watching, do can please feel free to put down the questions anyway which you want to ask to KK. And very first question coming from viewers, let's take that up first. So Harsh has put down a question, KK, for you, that how can one start the career in digital marketing from the scratch?
I will give you the first word: listen.
Right, right. That is very
Yeah,
much important.
there are so much of things happening around you. So see, when I put it across this way, I don't know whether how many people digest it. A person who completed 25 years in the profession is as new as the person who has just started afresh in the game,
Yes.
because every day is a different day. So when you talk about starting digital marketing in scratch, you need to basically understand the term marketing. So digital is a suffix to that marketing, but
Mhm.
marketing is more important. You are a brand. Whatever you do yourself as a brand, when you try to, because many people think that the word sell is something which is sell profit, and all those things are something which is a little, bad term, or something that is related to some selfishness or a negative side of it. But
Yeah,
you need
right,
to
right.
sell, you need
Mhm.
to, so ultimately you need to sell yourself, you need to have a brand, you are a brand basically.
Mhm.
So
Right.
likewise, you need to know more about marketing before getting into the digital marketing. When you put that, there is nothing has changed. It is just the tools you use has changed. But
Mhm.
basically marketing is more about understanding the customer, establishing a connect with the customer, feeling empathized to that customer, and connect the customer in a space, and using a product, whatever your product, build a brand around the product, package around the product, and connect with the customer with the product. So that process of marketing, process of selling the brand, process of connecting to the brand is ultimately important. So when before you are starting your digital marketing and all those things, you need to have a very clear understanding about the marketing as such. So I don't know, because I have studied in the days of Philip Kotler and all those things basically,
Mhm.
which if I tried repeating it, it will be very cliched and all those. So I'm not going to get into that. But I will just say you once, basically, listen. Listen is
Listen.
most important. So you need to keep abreast with what is happening around, what
Mhm.
changes we make. Because see, when I was in college, you talk about Pepsi and Coke, the legendary war of Pepsi and Coke and all those things. Now
Right,
they are
right,
not there in the picture at all. You see, there are a lot of other people who are marketing much more smarter. There are a lot
right.
of people who are just having a brand which is 3-year-old, 2-year-old, are doing much more smarter things than the people who have 100-year-old or 150-year-old in the brands in with them, basically big behemoths. But now the smaller brands are doing much more smarter things. So if you have noticed a brand like Dream 11, how they build
Mhm.
it, by Juice, the brand they build it, how long they have been
Yeah.
there. So there is nothing to, they nothing to it's something which you learn, something which you imbibe by observing people, understanding what is happening around. So I always will say one word: listen. That will
Listen.
help you to start and go forward.
And I also believe that, rightly said, that to be an effective speaker, listening is a fine art. So you be an active listener rather than even a good speaker, because if you have listened someone and you try to observe everyone, you will get the crux of what is happening around you also. So being open to listen is one of the derivative for you, Harsh, if you want to get started in the digital marketing era also. Talking about one query, this is my personal like question to you, in that way, KK. Talking about communication and the conversation, I guess there is a very thin line between a communication and the conversation. What are your views on these two parts, that how somebody should understand that what is the conversation and what is the communication you are trying to do?
So if you loosely put it across,
Uh-huh.
communication is an art, conversation is a skill.
Oh,
So that is something which you can, kind of, I think that is what clearly articulates the difference between both these things basically. When you communicate, you have to master that art, communicate
right,
properly. So if you
right.
see a copywriter
Mhm.
creates a good communication,
Right.
but me and you can converse. So it
Mhm.
is a skill you learn, you pick up. That is something which is that is a difference which I feel from both these things basically. So hope I have put it
Your
across.
first line itself has, uh, again, started me thinking in a way that, okay, yes, it is a skill and it's all about presentation that you basically put it on us. Okay, now talking about, before I take one of the viewers question, I also want to ask you always that, KK, we are working for Red Hat, and definitely it is something that, we both take so much of pride for. When you were in the college, means like spending about, like, let's take the things 20 years back, have you ever thought of like this open source world is going to be so much of boom in the industry?
When I started working, there was no Red Hat.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So don't guess my age because I start my career in 1997. I
Uh,
came out from the campus at that time when the millennium is also not onset. So that was
right.
the time I started off my career. So I spent my first decade in advertising agencies as such. So
Hmm.
I have never heard about open source. First
Okay.
time I started hearing about is by the infamous comment by the Microsoft about Red Hat being open source being a cancer for the world, basically. So that is something
Yes. Yes.
which I heard about. Then slowly I realized that this is something that is changing the world. Everybody is coming back, to the Red Hat way of thinking, basically the open way of doing the business, basically. So that is something which, rather that fueled my thoughts. In fact, when I have been here for the last three and a half years, but I
Right.
definitely have learned a lot to change my thinking, change my
Hmm.
perspectives. The four letters which actually transformed me was OPE and open. So that
Open.
is something just, that really takes you to a different plateau altogether.
Hmm.
So you are open to listen, you are open to express, you are open to contribute, you are open to imbibe, you are open to share things, basically. And
Right.
all these things creates an enrichment. So that is something which I learned from, from this last 3 4 years of working with Red Hat, is basically it helps you to, that openness helps you to enrich yourself as a person,
Hmm.
as a professional. So both ways that connection is established.
Right. So, yes, definitely. Even I cannot even think of at that what time in 97 I used to do just asking my mom, hey, feed me with milk or something. But it's very glad and honored to be interacting with you. So, the next question comes from the live viewers talking about the importance of digital marketing for open source products. What are your views on that?
Everything requires marketing, to be frank with
Right.
you. People think that when you talk about open source, when you're talking about free software, whatever you talk about, basically ultimately you have to generate revenue. So
Hmm.
generating revenue, you just can't place something and generate revenue just like that. You need to
Right.
kind of market it properly. You need to package it properly. You need to articulate the benefits of the product. Basically, you have to connect with the customer. You need to
Hmm.
positively predispose in their mind about
Hmm.
the brand, about the offer which you bring it to the market. Primarily, you need to be in the right place. So digital marketing is extremely important, because because in the last question also I wanted to tell that one great thing which we succeeded with digital marketing is we just killed the time between customer, the distance between the customer and the brand. That time between the time and space between the customer and brand is literally chopped off by the digital marketing asset. So
Right.
that connection is far easier, and
Hmm.
that is why most of the brands, especially the open source products, we
Hmm.
rely a lot on digital marketing to reach our customers, connect, keep conversing with them. And the entire cycle of customer journey is digital marketing plays a huge role, humongous role, as far as open source products are concerned.
Right, right. And I believe that's what you also said, that selling is an art and you are your brand and so as the products. So build it, sell it, and other will be starting consuming it. Right. And thank you so much, Mathaya, for bringing that question up. Another question coming from Bhavani. He says, is there a line between a good listener and a speaker? When do you think it is apt to go the other side?
Yes, definitely there is a line between a good listener and a speaker.
Yes. Hmm.
So always you need to understand, you need listening will actually give the what you call the material for you to speak. And
Hmm.
when you listen to orators, when you listen to the people who are good speakers, who communicate a lot, you learn a lot, basically. You can translate, you pick up the tips, you just take it for you know how to tackle the situations, you know how to connect with the audience, you know how to kind of gather the vibes from the audience, and basically to work on the pitch which you make when you are speaking, basically. So
Right.
yeah, so you need to be a good listener. And there is, as I mentioned to you, there is a line, basically, because when you speak you can't listen. So
Right.
that's another side. Yeah, yeah. So obviously you need to stop listening and you start speaking. So that the process cannot happen together. So obviously when the listening ends, you speak.
You stop listening and then you start speaking. Don't interrupt. And I believe also this is the very basic communication rule also, right? KK, means when you try to, like, somebody else is speaking and you try to interrupt, there you lose the interest. So first of all, be a good listener, and then you start just communicating, because other person is also going to respect that, hey, when I was speaking you were listening, now it's my turn. So I guess that way you establish that connection. Okay. So many people say is that talking about the first impression is the last impression, but in today's world we are talking about our digital connections. Or when I say digital connections, is more over LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and XYZ things has taken over the entire panel. Our next question coming from Nived, he says that how should our approach to be the first contact with an unknown person on any social media channel?
It's a
I
very
guess this
very
is
tricky
something I
question.
also want to
It's
learn.
it's a very very tricky question. So I am also seeking that answer for that question, to be frank with you. And the strategy is entirely different if the who is that unknown person all about.
Yes.
So it all depends on who is that unknown person. You need to know about that person a little bit before establishing a connection. So I will never go and contact with an unknown person in any social media platform, because I always do my research before connecting with that person. You accept a request, that is great, but before you are connecting, you need to make sure that who that person is, at least. So that is why I initially started about the shared stories. So there are two
Yes.
things. One is being a follower or being somebody who's a contact,
Hmm.
and second is basically connect with that person, getting into a conversation with that person, all these things. So if you need to converse with that person, that unknown shouldn't be there. You should know that
Hmm.
who that person is all about, at least the handle that he represents, or he or she, whoever it is representing. Basically, you need to understand that person, that persona, that handle with whom you are connecting with. So
Right.
first contact is always, you can actually, you can be a brand, you can show yourself so that that person can connect with you. That is another side of it, basically. So
Hmm.
you, if you wanted to go and establish with connect with a person, you can bring your brand in the forefront. You can mention that this is me.
Hmm.
That way you can present yourself and that person can connect with you. Don't I always keep a little bit of distance to connect or converse with an unknown person. That is my point of view. I don't know whether this works for everyone, but I keep that as my
No, no, no. Definitely, it makes more sense to research about someone, because that's where your curiosity start about building a connection. Because before you just go and say hi
sorry
to
to
an unknown
disappoint.
person, yes, you always
Sorry
need
to
to be very much
disappoint.
cautious. Definitely, definitely. So I hope, Nived, you got the part. And another question coming from Shivani, saying in sales we have heard the concept of selling yourself. So if an interviewer asks these type of question, then what will be the perfect answer? Ah, if I could get what to say. This is my first company, so I am very much
Yeah,
like good to
yeah,
think. So KK, now you have to take this question for
yeah.
sure.
See,
Yeah.
the problem here is that you never try to. The art of selling is that the person who's on the other side will never feel that you are selling something to him.
Hmm.
That is very important. So the person who's listening to you, if the moment he realizes that you are trying to sell yourself, there automatically there will be, they approach with you with a mental barrier. So you shouldn't never give an impression that you are trying to sell yourself. You
Hmm.
try to express yourself, great. You try to bring your persona forward, that is all great, but never try to sell yourself, even when you're going for an interview. It is a put, definitely it's a put off for me when I'm speaking to somebody who is trying to hard sell himself. I
Hmm.
definitely keep that person two steps away from me. But if that person becoming a magnet with his
Hmm.
personality or with her personality, basically, that is the way you need to treat with yourself. You need to frame your conversation in such a manner that you attract the person who's on the other side. So the value which you bring on the table is an important thing which you are presenting when you are presenting yourself to anybody. You are not selling yourself, you are presenting yourself.
Hmm.
You bring that value in the forefront and frame your conversation around the value. That will act as a magnet that will connect with whoever is interviewing you. Hope I have answered that.
Yeah. And also talking about the conversation in an interview, do you think, KK, would you mind taking this part also? Like, being open to express, or like I would say being open to contribute in the conversation which is happening in an interview plays a very important role, rather than just giving a viva answer that hey, somebody has asked and just to answer it I'm going to answer it.
Yeah, see, there is another. So that actually brings into another, kind of what you call landmine, which you step in most of the
Yeah.
interviews. Basically,
Hmm.
sometimes the questions are posed in such a manner that you have no clue about it, but you still try to attempt from your end. But when
Right.
you ask the question, the perfect answer is basically I don't know. That is a perfect answer for that. In fact, when somebody is asking you,
Yes.
don't never ever try to, because I have always noticed that, I've always seen also, and the moment you start trying to answer for certain questions which you don't know, you have absolutely no clue about it, you better say I don't know. So that is a perfect answer for these kind of scenarios. So just for the sake of striking a conversation, don't get into that perils.
Right. And I believe for all the viewers, that reminds me, one of my good friend Kinil has done a session of art of saying no. If you want to learn that art, guys, please go and search for that, the art of saying no, into my channel, and feel free to learn that art also, because it's equally important. Because I learned from that personal video is that leadership is an art to say no, not to say yes. And I guess just sorry for viewers, I'm not taking the question, and I want to bring one learning. मेरे ख्याल से ना the Mahabharata has also taught me that part, that even Lord Krishna was also addressed by Ranchod, and he said at that point of time that it's me who is going to decide that what opportunity I want to take. It's not that somebody has knocked the opportunity and I want to keep the door open. That might trouble me, and that people have even to the Lord Krishna they have titled the Ranchod, so who we are. So it's better to say I don't know and say
Desertion
from.
is an option. Actually,
Yes.
desertion is an option.
Yes, yes. So that plays a very important role. So another question coming from Rudra, he says that how marketing and sales are interrelated, and is there a myth that sales is always related to outside work rather than working in an office? Oh my God.
Yeah. So that is another very, very tricky question which I am trying to
Yes.
address when I speak to people. Because there is always a clear line of demarcation between marketing and sales.
Yes.
A marketer will never try to sell something, basically. So I
Right.
mentioned about that you need to market yourself, and you are selling something is a completely different. Selling, when you market it, you prepare the ground. You prepare the ground for sales to take over. A
Mhm.
marketer cannot sell any product, to be frank with you, but marketer can create an environment to sell the product.
Mhm.
So that is somewhat, you bring in the right kind of messaging. You place the product in, or brand in such an ambience that seller can take it forward and push it to the ultimate customer. So he established the connect, he influenced the buyer, everything a marketer can do. But marketer shouldn't attempt to sell any product, because there are people who are talking about, marketer can sell it and all those things, that people are not understanding the difference between two functions. So that has created so much of rift throughout the career, because I've noticed many a places, because the difference, that the change, the difference of various terms, like publicity and marketing,
Mhm.
people doesn't understand that two things. Promotion is
Right.
just an element of marketing. It's not all about marketing. Publicity, people start talking about publicity is marketing. So these are all not interchangeable words. Basically, each and everything has got a very, very distinctive flavor to it. So when sales, I'm not telling that it is not related. It is related. It is a continuum.
Right.
You need to have a market, you need to have marketing, you need to have a communication, then you need to have a sales also. All these functions should work in tandem to continue the process of bridging between a customer and a brand. Hope I have
Right.
that was.
Yes, very insightful, at least for me, to think in a very different objective. And so, as for Rudra, I believe. And I guess one of our viewers want to say hi, Karuna. So, KK,
Hi,
hi,
Karan.
KK. Okay, so we are talking a lot about conversation. KK, I want to know about your secret of conversation with someone. That what is that piece of advice you keep to yourself? That if somebody new trying to connect with you, what you always take that key ingredient with you, that hey, if I'm trying to interact with somebody, how I should start the conversation?
Two things. One is
Yeah.
be honest.
Hmm.
Second is be open. So two things basically. Yeah, I know that, but as you mentioned, that desertion is also an option. So
Yes.
if you decide to communicate with somebody, converse with somebody, you have to
Hmm.
be making sure that you are being honest to that person.
Right.
Second part, that will help you to strike a very very healthy conversation with anyone. And
Right.
second is basically be open to, there can be areas where you don't connect with that person. There can be areas of conflict, but being open will help you to tide over that, because that is something which you need to be, you need to be this is something I've learned. I'm not telling that I've been following that throughout my career. This is something I've learned. This I picked up on the way of journey. So these are the two things which I can put across as something which I keep that. And another thing, most importantly, when you converse that, you deliver a value to that person. So that is
Right.
also extremely important. So
Hmm.
what value you are, that you need to decide. So that value can be anything. That value can be knowledge. That value can be something, that impression, which you impress
Hmm.
on other person basically. So, but always try to deliver a value, being open and being honest.
Being open and being honest, I guess, it's very something that everybody should try, because while saying a lie, you need to remember and you have to create a story around it. So be open and being honest simply resolve all the challenges. So Gege, means we are towards the end of our session, and I have learned one thing during this part, that conversations succeed the conversations. So when we are towards the end, like of the conversation or of the meeting with someone, what should be that way to end that part up, that how we should approach the end? Can you guide us on that?
Will never end.
Uh-huh.
Gaurav, I just wanted to put that point. Conversations will never end. Every
Okay.
conversation is the what you call the semicolon we put after every conversation, not a full stop which you put. So that actually starts another one. So
Right.
always looking forward to have one more round, another round of conversation that actually brings in. That's the only way you can grow. Actually, see, I've noticed that you see a mango on a tree and you try
Mhm.
to use a pole to get it and you are not reaching that. Then you tie one more stick pole on top of it to try to reach that. So to reach your goal, to reach your destination, to fulfill your purpose, you always need to build on the conversations. So I look forward for another set of interesting session where we talk about, and when we I learn more and you learn also basically in the process. So that is
Right,
something
right,
I always look
right.
forward. So I'm not telling that let us not end the conversation. Let us keep talking.
Keep talking, and that's where I put it down, this like session theme, that collaboration never gets old, because conversation is something that is never ending process, and so as the collaboration. So if you have a right set of mindset, you rightly said, being open, being honest, shared a story, propose a value, and build your own brand, and that's where you start succeeding, that how it is going to work between both of us. So thank you so much, KK, on behalf of the entire Cheers with Gaurav team.
Thank
Before
you.
you leave, I have a, like, I want to ask you that any tip for our viewers that you wishes to give, or any piece of advice to all the viewers that you want to give to all of us.
See, it is another question, because you already stole my words. Basically, you already kept all the 5 points which I wanted to talk about, and you summed it up. But I can end with sign off with one word, basically that four-letter word, OPEN. So be open. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Thank
Have
you
a good
so much,
evening.
KK. Cheers. Have a great evening. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you. Thank
see you
you. Bye.
soon the way you taught us. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
KK. For all the viewers, I just want to say that the conversation between me and KK, I learned one thing, that the art of conversation is not knowing what you ought to say, but what one ought not to say. As KK rightly said, be open, be honest, share your values, and build your brand. Thank you so much for everyone for being here. I highly appreciate your presence. Thank you so much for joining in on this session. I'll see you on another session. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And more importantly, be open, be honest, and stay connected. Thank you so much.